So, Janet, let's go ahead and reiterate what we were talking about a little bit about the getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
So the whole purpose of us doing this podcast is that people that stay active and who are moving live longer, and it can be your physical, mental, as well as emotional health. And if you're static and you're not doing something, then you probably aren't going to get out of your comfort zone and learn and be healthier and happier. So if we don't get off the couch or don't stray away from our house to try something that is something new, whether it be maybe you wanted to learn how to paint, maybe you needed to take a class to improve your woodworking, or like me last year, I decided after a few crashes that maybe I should get a coach and help me with downhill. So the whole point of it is that it gets us out of our house and out of the comfort of what is our status quo, because it challenges us to physically and mentally become more healthier.
Our bodies are meant to be adaptive, so our bodies need stress to adapt, whether it be mental or physical. So we need to stress that out mentally or physically, and start new things and get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And what happens when we are uncomfortable is there's a lot of neurotransmitters that are expressed in our brain. There's a lot of hormones that are expressed in our brain, and our body adapts to it. And I think sometimes the uncomfortable part is that we don't know what it's like to be uncomfortable, because it's the unknown. So once we are uncomfortable, we get a few times we get more comfortable being uncomfortable.
Unlike children, it, their world is new to them and they don't stress over little things. And so, I think that's one of the things that's a challenge as adults, is that we need to open up our world and not put ourselves in a box that we aren't capable of finding something new. I mean, make something new, try something, grow a garden, take an art class. Like Shawn was talking a little bit earlier about public speaking. It doesn't mean you have to be in front of a whole auditorium. It could be just a small group of people. And as you keep progressing, you become more comfortable. And maybe the first time it is very stressful, but as you become more comfortable, you gain new strength, and also you gain reassurance and confidence. And I think that's really important, because the people that live the longest are people that don't let their mind and body just be status.
Yeah, some of the worst things we can do for ourselves is nothing. Sit at home and do nothing. Our bodies are meant to be stimulated, whether it be our physical muscles or whether it be our brain is meant to be are meant to be stimulated. So, Janet, you talked about traveling to Argentina,
Yep.
making you uncomfortable. What about traveling to? We're going to be going to Australia. Are you uncomfortable about going to Australia next year?
Not as much.
Why not?
Well, for one thing, you have envisions in your mind of what could be safe and not safe. And so I did have to research where we were going in South America, because I don't know, maybe it was from movies, maybe it's from the news. I don't know. I just had this idea that it was going to be a very scary and bad place. And I'm sure there might be some places in Australia that aren't perfect or great, because there are in America too, even in your little small town. But for whatever reason, Australia didn't seem like a scary place to me.
Oh, it didn't, huh? Maybe because uh, the language is English.
Well, it could be part of it, but I just think also, there's little things that you just put, I'm not going to do this or I'm not going to do that. And for, why? I don't know all the reasons, right? It's just that I put that barrier there. And, once you remove it and you actually, because I did research going to South America, to Argentina. I talked to a friend from Argentina who's in the States, and so just maybe educating myself is part of it, because we sometimes put prejudice or just thoughts in our brain that may not hold true. And so when I researched where we were going, and I researched, and talked to people, it removed those ideas from my brain, and the experience was wonderful. So I think that's just the whole point of it, is that, I put barriers. Nobody else did, really. I accepted the barriers. And once they were removed, I was able to enjoy myself and do something that was absolutely amazing.
For sure. So Over the last week, Janet, name some things that you've done that you were uncomfortable with, and it turned out
Well,
okay.
well, thanks to Brian Heaney and a good boat driver. I don't know if Neil was driving or not, but um, yeah, we barefoot water skied, and Shawn talked me into trying it. And actually, Brian Heaney is amazing barefoot water skater, so I totally trusted his coaching ability and the driving of Neil and Brian. But I will say, I don't know if I trust Shawn on the boom.
Yeah, that's what freaked her out. Yeah, that's what really scared her. I put her in compromising situations before, mountain biking
Yeah.
and in a drag boat and in a Jeep and on a 4-wheeler.
Yes. So I do safety boundaries with Shawn.
But she does get out of her comfort
Yes, I
zone with me, and I get out of my comfort zone with her.
Mhm.
My comfort zone was not horses for sure. Janet grew up on horses, so she not scared of them at all. And I was kind of taught if it doesn't have a kill switch, then you shouldn't be around it. Because my dad was kind of not necessarily fearful of horses, but he just wasn't around them. So, when I did meet Janet, we did start doing some just trail riding, nothing serious for sure, but at least I did get around horses. So that was kind of my getting out of my comfort zone with Janet.
Well, I will say snowmobiling next to a bison was a little uncomfortable, but
Yes,
but it was totally beautiful anyway.
we were in Yellowstone National Park last year, and we got to get really close to a bison that was on the road. And not only was it a negative 40 degrees, but it was kind of freaky getting close to that bison.
Yeah.
If that bison decided to turn on us, there was nothing we could have
Yeah.
done. That was definitely uncomfortable, but we survived it, and it was a very good experience.
Right. So we did go with a guide, and I recommend that. I don't think they let you without. So
Yeah,
it's a good
highly
thing,
recommend
but
that.
Yeah.
I think actually in Yellowstone on snowmobiles, I think you have to use a guided service. So Janet, as we wind this podcast up, what would you like to remind our listeners and viewers?
Well, I think the first thing is no matter what your age, don't restrict yourself from doing something. Maybe you have to take smaller steps, but just because you have, something behind you as far as, you're 50, you're 60, you're 70, you're 80, don't or 90, don't let that restrict you. Don't ever let that keep you from doing something if you can. And, keep learning. So, some of the funnest people that Shawn and I hang around with are always challenging to us because they learn and they do it on their own time, but they actually, the conversation is fun because they just don't stop learning, right? So whether it is they're reading something, whether it's, um, wildlife, the conversations can be whatever it could be. It doesn't mean that it has to be one thing. We have a friend that's a musician, and he's absolutely amazing to go to a concert with because what he hears and sees is totally different than us, which is so fun, right? Because we see things through a different perspective. And I think that's what's lost sometimes as we grow up as adults. We don't feel like, I want the maturity of an adult, but I do like the eyes of a child because the world is open to them and we restrict our lives. So that we only get one life. So let's live it to the fullest and don't let our brain or our thoughts keep us from living.
That's right. That's right. Don't let us hold us back. That's for sure. So get comfortable being uncomfortable. So we thank you for tuning in to Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham today. Stay tuned Thursday for our regularly scheduled weekday podcast at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Thursday. Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. Thank you for tuning in.